Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sweet Success. I'm your host, Katie Klein, and today I'm thrilled to share a very special holiday roundtable episode with you all. I'm joined by some of the leading voices in hospitality, including Josiah Mackenzie of Hospitality Daily, Zach Boozy Cruz from Behind the Stays, David Malili and Stephen Karen, co-hosts of The Modern Hotelier, and Glenn Hausman of No Vacancy. We've gathered together to discuss our thoughts on the most pivotal stories and trends of 2025 and share our predictions of what's to come in 2026. So let's dive into the episode. You've just checked in to Sweet Success. Join me, Katie Klein, for exclusive conversations with hotel executives, hospitality leaders, and industry innovators. Together, we'll uncover the strategies and techniques these masters of hospitality relentlessly refine. Whether you're already in the industry or just starting out, tune in every week to unlock the secret to your sweet success. Well, hello, everyone. It is so lovely to see you all. I'm Katie Klein, host of Skift's Sweet Success podcast, and I am genuinely honored to be ringing in the holiday season with some of the most insightful voices in hospitality today. First up, we have Zach Boozy Cruz, host of Behind the Stays. Zach, always great to see you.
Thanks for having me, Katie. It's an honor to be here.
Next up, we have David Malili and Steve Karen, co-hosts of The Modern Hotelier. David, Steve, how are you both doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Doing great.
We also have Glenn Hausman, host of No Vacancy. Glenn, how have you been?
Hey, doing great. So awesome to be here with all of you today. This should be a lot of fun and maybe pretty dangerous.
I hope so. Rounding out our proverbial roundtable, we have Josiah Mackenzie, host of Hospitality Daily. Hi, Josiah.
Hey, Katie. Great to be here. Great to see you all.
So we have gathered together not only to toast the holiday season, but also to reflect on the year that's ending and to look ahead at what's to come in 2026. So let's start with talking about 2025. It was a big year of unexpected partnerships and bold brand reinventions, a renewed focus on guest loyalty, major moves in luxury, and so much more. We're each going to share our thoughts on what we saw as the most pivotal, impactful story, trend, or development in the hospitality space for the entire year. So I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. For me, I think I would have to say the most pivotal story of 2025 was the long-awaited completion of the 8-year, $2 billion restoration of the Waldorf Astoria, New York. Personally, I see it as more than a renovation, almost a rebirth of one of the most iconic hotels, not only in New York, but in all of America. The level of investment, the meticulous preservation of Art Deco details, and the addition of hundreds of branded residences felt like a signal of where luxury is and really where the industry is moving to. What did you all think?
I think you're spot on. I think luxury is going ultra luxury, and that's going to be a theme that's going to permeate, I think, through a lot of this conversation going forward.
This property is an irreplaceable asset. I think it speaks to people's desire for history and heritage and making sure that it is fresh and it has the creature comforts that we want in a luxurious property. I think we're going to see a lot more of this.
Yeah, and I'll just say, having worked and lived in New York for 20 years, it was the only property that if I had no reason to, if I walked by it, I went into the lobby and just wanted to see it and kind of feel it. It just had that feel. There was even rumors that the bellman and the valet or whoever staff was there were making like $200,000 a year in tips and salary. So it not only was it luxury, it was one of those places you'd like to work if you were in New York.
Yeah, amazing. Zach, what about you? What do you think was the top story of the year?
That's like asking me to pick my favorite child. And I do have one, but no. I thought a lot about this, Katie, and I think that it's not one individual story. I think there's a broader trend that I thought permeated throughout various sectors within hospitality, a trend around like loyalty, right? And consumer loyalty in particular. I think loyalty was disrupted on a number of fronts American Airlines removed many of the benefits that status holders have cherished for years. Hyatt did something similar. Hilton just announced an overhaul to their own program, in theory, making it easier to earn status, but then also introducing an ultra luxe tier as well with their Diamond Reserve. And then in addition to that, we saw programs like premium programs, paid membership programs. What Ryanair did, they launched this paid membership program and then sunsetted it, I think 7 or 8 months after they announced it. And I think there's this general grappling that the industry is going through right now with respect to what do consumers care about? What is loyalty? Does loyalty need to be reimagined? I'm a little biased based off of what I do in my day job. I think the answer to that is yes. But I do think that there were several big stories this year that really call into question what is the future of loyalty. Loyalty to a brand, is loyalty a feeling? And I think that, quite frankly, that is the big thing that we need to be wrestling with over the next couple of years in this industry. I don't have the answer necessarily. I also think it's interesting that Airbnb's long talked about launching a loyalty program. They still haven't quite done it, but they certainly have. They're doing a test with Hotel Tonight. I think some of us have talked about before. But yeah, so I think there's a big question mark with respect to what should loyalty look like for today's traveler. And do today's travelers care about loyalty in the same way that maybe generations previous did?
Zach, you are right. That is a huge issue that we have to be concerned about. But I think what's most concerning is all of the major brands tout these huge numbers of loyal customers. We have 180 million. We have 300 million. But they're not really looking at the reality of the fact that if I, as a consumer, am in every single loyalty program, am I really loyal to anything at all?
100%.
And when you start to chip away at all of those benefits, it makes it a lot more complicated. Zach, you talked American Airlines. I've been struggling with Delta all year, trying to pace out my Delta, Sky Lounge entries. And it's really makes the experience a lot less satisfactory for me and opens the door for me to be less loyal in the future.
100%. I think there are lots of big questions here that need to be wrestled with.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen some hotels and get a little bit more creative with their loyalty, and that has not been a big trend yet. And I'm going to talk more about this later for my 2026 trend. But I think we're going to see a lot more hotels get creative, not just points, but maybe some actual hyperlocal experiences, maybe some amenities in their hotel as well. But like I said, I'm going to talk about more about that in 2026 when we go there.
I'm excited to hear more about that, Steve, because loyalty is a big nut to crack, right? And I think, Zach, to your point, customers were sold one thing. And then, Glenn, your experience is perfect right there. You expect one thing, and when you're not having that delivered on, it's turning your head. It's making you think, should I go elsewhere? So it'll be an interesting thing to talk more about later in our discussion. I want to jump over to David and hear what his top story or trend or development from the year was.
So this is a little out of left field, but my trend is this was, I believe, the year of trade show fatigue, meaning there are so many events that have now been entered in our space that the trend I'm seeing is that nobody stays for the whole event. We were just at the hospitality show in Denver, and I would say probably 20, 30 people either just went for the one day, left the Monday night, or stayed part of Tuesday, not the whole day, and left. And everybody was just kind of like, I'm just going to get the blank out of here. I've been to high tech. I've been to this show. I've been to that show. So for me, I think we're kind of oversaturated with these events and trade shows and hospitality. And I think not only the hoteliers, but especially the vendors, they just have fatigue on all these shows that happen throughout the year. So,
David, I love that. I wonder if you could unpack it a bit because, I lead marketing at Actable. We do a lot of events. I have seen this year appetite for the hoteliers that we engage higher than ever for events in general. But I wonder is it trade shows specifically? Is it the format of the existing trade shows? Like, do you see an appetite for or an interest in events outside of trade shows? How do you think about the broader space?
Yeah, so for me, I think it's just the fact that there are so many. Some of them are very redundant with who's there and who the audience is. Sometimes it's there's events, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I will. But I won't even say the event. There's some events that last 3 days, and you're like, do we really need 3 days of this? There's other events recently, the hospitality show that started on a Sunday. And so we all work enough we already have so much stuff to do. Take away from your family on a Sunday to show up to be at the opening reception. I mean, it's just kind of inconsiderate, but they probably couldn't get the floor or the space that they needed. So for me, I think it's probably more on the vendor side, because you want to be everywhere and you want to get these hotels. If there's something in Miami, you think you're going to get the Southeast crew. You're in Denver, you're going to get, West Coast people. So I think it's just, there's so many of them. And sometimes you go and you're just like, this is the same panel, the same topics. So I'm either going to walk the floor with the same vendors. And again, I think trade shows are great. I'm very pro trade shows, but I think there's just a little bit of fatigue because there's so many of them and they're 2 full days maybe. I'm just finding that people I talk to, they can get everything they need to get done in one day.
I agree, David. I mean, from the PR side of things too, you see a lot of the speaker will come in just for their session and then leave. And part of what the event is billing is almost that networking ability with people. And then they're just coming in for their own thing and leaving. It's very siloed. And like you said, a lot of fatigue around the same panels or the same people on panels. Or even if the people are different, just like agreement, there's no like discourse. Actually, Travel and Leisure at their World's Best event over the summer, they had an amazing panel on loyalty. And I think the reason I'm still thinking about it is because they were disagreeing on stage very respectfully. But it's rare. You don't see that very often.
Last thing I would say on this too, and this is a nod to you, Katie, and the Skift team. I came to the Global Forum. I actually was only there for a day, so I was one of those people that you shouldn't be at an event. But one of the things I observed, which I loved, is because y'all are podcasters, journalists. The sessions were so dynamic. Whereas a lot of times you go to these shows, right, and it's somebody who's a moderator. They don't do this full time. They're not a podcaster full time. They're not a journalist necessarily, and so they might be from the industry. They might be decent at asking questions, but you lack sort of like the story narrative architecture that I think folks like who do podcasts regularly and or who are writing stories regularly, they that's just part of who they are and how they ask questions and how they navigate conversations. And so I actually thought that was one of the best conferences I've been to in recent years, not because the content was directly applicable in always to my what I do on a daily basis, but more so to the content was interesting, like it was entertaining, right? And I think that's what you lose at a lot of these events.
Zach, I got to agree with you on that one. I know disagreement's in vogue all of a sudden, but I agree with you on this one because the problem is that panel positions are usually paid sponsorships, right? I understand everyone's got to make money and stuff like that, but when you put up somebody there that has no business being a host or moderator, you wind up devaluing the entire session. And I would argue doing more harm for your overall business model in the long run than if you just partnered with great people like all of you are. That's what I'm thinking.
I love it, Glenn. All right, let's move on to Steve. Let's hear what you think from 2025. Top story, trend, development.
Yeah. It's funny. We do a session once a month called Hospitality Hot Topics. What happened in the industry this past month? I felt like every month that we did this, we talked about a brand acquiring an independent hotel group. We had so many. Citizen M got acquired. The Standard got acquired. So we're just seeing so many of these lifestyle boutique hotels being acquired by brands. And I think brands have finally realized that, hey, these guests want an experience. They don't just want that standard, box of a hotel room with no design, doesn't feel like home, the bed's not comfortable. They really want that, more homely feel and more experiences tied into their stay. So they're gobbling up independence, which, I totally get and makes sense, but I don't think 2026 is going to slow down with any independents getting acquired by brands at all. So I think we'll see more of that in 2026 and definitely saw a lot of it this year.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I've noticed, which is really interesting, I was just in Dallas at a Marriott, I think it was an Autograph, I don't know which collection it was, but what they're also doing is they're not sticking the brand in your face like they did in the past. So they're getting these, they're starting to realize, and I was on a call with somebody from Hilton who was doing with their lifestyle brand and Graduate, and they really kind of realized like, hey, we can't really mess up the formula. Like we've got to basically take this. We can't like have Marriott Bonvoy signs all over the place and Marriott in the rooms and things of that nature. So it's like they want the guest and the hotel want the advantage of being a Marriott, but the guest doesn't want to feel like they're staying at your typical Marriott. So I think they've started to do a much better job of not really putting it in your face and making you feel like, okay, yeah, I booked in, I'm getting some loyalty points, but I'm getting a hotel that's not your standard cookie cutter hotel.
And I think what's also happening is, to give the Flag some credit here, is they're getting a little bit more creative with their partnerships, right? You see Trailborn, for example, right? And what they're doing, this kind of 4-star product near national parks. I can't talk super publicly about this, but they've shared a little bit about what their partnership looks like behind the scenes. And I was just very impressed, quite frankly, that they were able to negotiate the kind of agreement that they were able to negotiate of getting benefits of Bonvoy, right? Without needing to, quote unquote, sell their soul. And so I think even what Marriott's doing with like the outdoor collection, for example, is really interesting here. And so we'll see how these trends continue. But yeah, I think it's smart and it can be very beneficial to many hotel operators.
I think there's a huge opportunity for independence now. With my team, I've gone through some of the data. This has been a year of a lot of top line challenges, and independents have had very strong performance on the top line relative to other segments. A little behind luxury overall as a category, but across all chain scales of independence, they've done well. And I think that speaks to the appetite that consumers today have for a different experience. And so it stands out, especially in a world where there's a lot of parts of hospitality struggling. We have more data on that at hoteldata.com, but it's interesting to get into the numbers and see this isn't just a feeling or kind of a buzzword. We're kind of seeing this in the financial performance as well.
I love that, grounding it back in the data too, to actually say this isn't just something that's making headlines, but it's actually making money as well. Great. Let's move over to Glenn.
Mine is going to be two sides of the same coin over here. I'm going to say the abject confusion around the implementation of artificial intelligence, AI stuff. And on the other side, the unearned confidence about how you're going to be able to be successful with AI. Too many people are boasting certain things that I don't think they should be. I think really we're at the part of that, at the adoption of a new technology, like all other technologies, where we have to kind of figure it out. And I think that's why it's the big story of this year. It's every conversation was dominated by this topic, as we all are trying to figure out together how we're going to be able to best leverage opportunity, because we all know going forward, the operating environment's going to get tough, and we need this technological breakthrough, continue to reduce costs, up customer service, and create better profitability. So that's mine. What do y'all think?
I don't know if you've had this experience, but I feel like a lot of the industry conferences I go to, the sessions talking about AI are packed, standing room only. So there's a lot of appetite for that. And then, we spoke to this earlier in the conversation, but just the things I'm hearing on stage are not that interesting. It really is years behind what other industries are doing. So I would love to see some groups, some individuals on panels, like talk about what you're experimenting with that is new and novel, and most importantly, driving results. I was at a marketing conference a couple months ago in San Francisco. A lot of you think about kind of marketing, San Francisco, AI, these would be at the leading edge. 2,000 people in the room. Who's driving more revenue in your business with AI? There's like 2 hands go up. There is the potential to do this, though. If you look at kind of the commercial side of the business, if you look at kind of saving money in operations, there's potential to do this. And I know there are people out there doing it. I just love to see more stories, more best practices shared.
I got to follow up with that, Josiah, because you hit on a point that really frustrates me. And I see this at all conferences, and I don't think it's hospitality specific. I think it's mankind specific. And by that, I mean, we have lost the lack of critical thinking. And typically what I see is somebody says one thing, and then everybody parrots that back as it is sacrosanct. In the cocktail parties, in the vendor booths, wherever, instead of deeply questioning what's going on to find out what the truth is. So I've been fighting the good fight to keep critical thinking alive, but I'm scared I've lost.
But it's so important, Glenn, because I think this is becomes more important in a world more driven by AI, because this is what AI does. It just parrots back common knowledge, right? So if this is the way that we're operating, we become less and less valuable. Maybe parroting back common knowledge used to work at one point. It's going to matter less and less.
I also think there's a lot to be said for good leadership in this moment, right? I think that there's, depending on who you talk to, especially from a staffing perspective, there's fear, there's trepidation around these tools. Right. And people, when they talk about using AI, might be using AI to write an email, right? And that's it. And that's their usage today. So I think there's a huge opportunity for leaders to step up to the plate, to work alongside teams, to not just command a general statement like we need to be using AI to get more efficient, right? But actually working alongside staff to say, hey, we want to make your lives better. We want to make your day better. Let's go through your day and let's talk day by day, hour by hour. What are the things that you're doing and how can I help you do more of the things that you love right? And reduce some of the things that maybe you could care less about. And so I think like this is a moment for leadership to really stand strong and whatnot. And the best leaders will get their teams excited about this usage, about using AI, and show them how to do it in a way that's meaningful for them, right? First and foremost, but also the business. And unfortunately, like the worst leaders will either say we need to be using AI to be more efficient, and or they just won't be having the conversation around AI at all.
Yeah, I like what you're saying too about not just saying that general statement. And this is really going back to what Glenn talked about too. Now, look, guys, I come from a background as a publicist, so I love a talking point as much as anybody else. But I think consumers, and especially us in the industry, we're a bit over it. You can see through it now. So if you're just using these talking points of how you're using AI or how you're building brands, and you're just using buzzword, we're starting to say, yeah, but what does that actually mean? How does that actually come to life? And I like what you just said about using AI for an email, because I talk to ChatGPT every day. Does that mean I'm an AI super user? Absolutely not, because I was using it for very basic tasks, because that was all I understood how I could use. And the other day I had this kind of slight breakthrough for myself where I was trying to learn a new software that I didn't know anything about. And I was able to take real-time screenshots of what I was doing and say, yeah, but this is showing like this, or show me exactly how I need to do it in real time. And even just that little step up, I was like, wait, I'm knocking on a whole new world of what AI can actually do for me in real time with learning. So I feel like that as an industry, we're in the infancy of understanding what this technology can do, and we're talking about it as if we're familiar with it.
I think we need to really look at how AI is going to enhance the hotel experience, not just build something because it's AI. And when we do that, let's look at the competition and if anybody else is doing something similar in the industry. There are so many people that I've talked to where it's like, this has never been done. Nobody else is doing that in the industry. And I'm like, I just talked to 4 people down the road from me that are doing the exact same thing. Maybe not the exact same process, but the outcome is going to be the same. So I'm challenging people who are really into AI. Let's actually take a deep look in how this is going to actually help hoteliers, maybe automate processes, not necessarily replace people, but really help hoteliers be more efficient at their job. And then let's look at the market. If anything out there is out there, I know it's tough. AI moves fast, but man, the amount of people I've heard, oh, this has never been done before and it's not out there. And I've heard the same people talk about it a few minutes later has happened to me multiple times at trade shows and with other folks in this industry.
All right, Josiah, do you want to close out our 2025 look back stories, highlights, top developments?
Sure, happy to. I think I love this conversation on AI, and just to riff a little bit on what you shared there, Steve. It's funny because I just before this got off a call with our head of product at Actable. We were talking about AI, like where's this all going? And he said something that kind of stuck with me in the sense that there's actually, if you think about it, it's not AI strategy, it's like product strategy. And I think, or it's business strategy, it's leadership strategy, it's hospitality strategy. And AI is the accelerant of that. And I think Steve and others, I think your comments, you're getting at that, right? It's like, don't look at this as a standalone thing. Like you have to think, what are the biggest problems to solve? And I'm excited. I think, our industry has been challenged by staffing shortages or turnover from executive leaders or property level leaders. And there could be an opportunity to level up the performance by enabling better decision-making, faster decision-making that makes better working environment, better guest experience. So I'm excited to see where this goes. My biggest story of the year, I think, is how operators really came through to protect profits. And you might think, hey, like, why do profits matter? I'm not an investor. Like, does this even matter? We all love all the different elements of hospitality, but profits are what enable it all, right? Attracting, retaining, paying well to the great people in hospitality, investing in the infrastructure, the design, the amenities, the guest experience. That takes money, right? And the hotel business is a real estate business. It's an operating business that has to make money to succeed. And so, I used to work for a real estate investment company a couple of years ago, and just coming out of COVID, there's sort of this phrase going around like survive until 25, and then 25 starts, and then it became like survive 25. And here we're recording this at the end of 25, and it's interesting. Like again, looking at the data is, there was a big miss to expectations on the top line. People started the year saying, "Hey, we're going to deliver this across the U.S., across Chan Skills," and we saw misses when we were looking at the data, and I think, what happened though, even though there's a top line miss, smart operators were able to protect profits by controlling expenses carefully and doing it in a way that was actually really tricky. It's one thing just to slash costs. It's another thing to recognize, hey, we have guests with sky high expectations. We need to meet and exceed those. We have people that we've had this risk of turnover, and it's hard to retain good people, right? And they've been able to create good working environments while at the same time delivering and protecting profits as much as is possible. So I would say, if you think about the whole ecosystem from brands to investors to operators, it's really those operators, both on property teams and above property teams, that were demonstrating leadership. They were demonstrating, here's what it looks like to operate with excellence, to build a strong culture, to use technology and all the tools in our toolkit to do that. But it's been really, really remarkable to see that, and I'm excited to see where this goes in the year ahead.
It's also been interesting for me, having run hotels, that sometimes they are worried about the profits, but they forget about the guest experience. And there are things, as Glenn was talking about, there are things that can be done. We talked about AI that can really not take away and help the hotel continue to be profitable. So anyway, I think what you said is right.
All right. That wraps up our look back at this year, 2025. I really enjoyed all of those stories. I think we all started to debate and get excited about some of the things we were talking about. So I'm really looking forward to what we're going to talk about next, which is, as this year comes to a close, let's think about, if we had a crystal ball, what do we think will shape the headlines of 2026? Glenn, let's start with you.
Yeah, so the reason why I was so quiet after Josiah's profitability comment, because that's really what I want to focus on in 2026. And I have been preaching and over again about this K-shaped economy, the bifurcation of the haves and have-nots. And I think it's really endangering not just the hospitality industry, but overall society as a whole. And I think we're going to see this really come to fruition, sadly, over the next year, because I have been very pessimistic about the overall state of the American economy and macroeconomic trends globally as well. So the super uber wealthy people are living it up and having a great experience. And that profitability outside luxury hotels and upper upscales is almost non-existent. So I'm out there trying to share with people that we have to start thinking about it almost as two separate industries. Otherwise, we're going to, we're unfortunately may go down the wrong path and make decisions because we think things are one way or the other. A couple of examples. I went to a Virtuoso event for next year. $50,000 per person trips are up something like 20%. I don't know if that's the exact number, something around that, right? But at the same time, we're living in a society where more people are buying Subway sandwiches on Klarna and paying it off on time. And my fear, and I hope this is the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life, is saying that I'm really afraid that next year is going to be a reckoning that we're not expecting. But if we're smart, if we're sensible, if we focus on the issues that can help us retain that profitability, I think individually we could each have successes, but I think overall we're in for some hard times, but not like 2020. So it's going to be easy to get through emotionally that way.
I mean, Glenn, it's really interesting, and I feel like you're as dialed in as anybody into kind of what's happening and unfolding right now. And I think there's been reporting already on this, and I think you have a perspective into where things can go. I do think that's going to accelerate. It's interesting, even looking at ultra luxury just as compared to luxury, and that is even accelerating faster. So it does seem the trend lines are going that way. I think, there's a lot of issues that brings up. I think one silver lining or kind of a component of this, that if there is that continued separation, sometimes in luxury, there are practices and things and innovations that can happen that can be applied elsewhere. I think, kind of look across sectors that sometimes happens. There's also where I think a world where in this ultra luxury sector, that money would have been spent on other consumer goods or brands or fashion. And so in general, I'm optimistic about money moving into the world of hospitality. I think there's a lot of implications on exactly how does this play out for everyone? But if we can kind of get more money moving from other sectors into hospitality, into travel, there could be trickle-on benefits that benefit others.
Josiah, I think you're absolutely right. And one of the things that I've been preaching over the last 15 years or so is the shifting from a materialistic economy to an experiential economy. And now that's coming out of everybody's mouths all the time. So people, in my opinion, will travel. I'm here in Las Vegas as we're recording this. And people are coming to see bands at Sphere. People are going to be flying in to go to the Raiders game this Sunday. Last Sunday as we're running this, but you know what I'm saying out there. So I think there's great opportunity. Plus, now that I've been in this business 30 years, I've seen a number of cycles. And the one thing that always amazes me is just when we think we've reached our peak, we can't solve any problems, new technological breakthroughs come through that reset the deck and give us so much opportunity going forward. So while I'm very pessimistic, things like AI, that shift in societal culture to wanting to have experiences over things, I think is in the long run going to be the saving grace if hoteliers out there can play that strategy properly.
Yeah, and I think I don't want to get political, but I think if you look at a hotel and you were to cut all these services, your guest wouldn't be happy. And I think when you look at the political landscape, what's happening in the country is cut. You talked about, having to do a payment plan for a Subway sandwich. I mean, that's where we're at. So I think that's where there's a fine line, what's going on in hospitality and what's going on in this country as far as cuts, where people are trying to save money, and how is that really affecting the citizens or the guest in kind of a parallel, kind of strange world. So
yeah, I'm sitting in a city right now that I think is having trouble because of death by 1,000 fees. So cut. And then you think you're doing great. And then all of a sudden you hit that tipping point and then everything suddenly changes and you're caught off guard.
Yeah, I also wonder too, right, where the opportunity exists. And I saw Chase put out their travel trends report last week or the week before. And one of the things I discovered in this report is that I guess 2026 is the 100th year anniversary of Route 66. And so huge opportunity for, road trips. And what we know with travelers and just looking back through loads of historical data, people hold on to their trips, right? They hold on to their travel. It might shift. They might skip Europe. They might skip, Disneyland, right? Maybe they'll do a road trip in 2026. And so I think that there's a huge opportunity for operators, with 2-star, 3-star, product along Route 66, right? To get really thoughtful now on, hey, what is our game plan for the year, right? How are we thinking through a marketing strategy for this year? What guests might we be able to attract this year that we wouldn't, be able to attract otherwise, given all the macroeconomic effects that you just highlighted, Glenn?
Yeah, Zach, I think you're 100% right. One of the trends that kind of started this year was more local vacations. People going on vacations within 50 miles of their house. So taking those longer weekends, I know we have the ultra luxury that are going to other countries on private jets, doing all that, but people are going to travel and stay in hotels regardless. So I think those independent hotels, Josiah, like you said, great opportunity for maybe those smaller markets where people want to go to a smaller, city. I'm like Estes Park, that's close to me, great, beautiful mountain town where they're not going to be spending money going to the spa or on all these, things. They're going to be spending time in nature to save money, things like that. So I think everybody's going to be traveling, but Josiah, I agree with you and Zach as well. A lot of opportunity here for maybe smaller markets and independents as well.
Yeah, an opportunity for alternative accommodations too, outside of hotels, whether it be short-term rentals, glamping sites, etc. And I'm loving what you guys are saying about road trips because I have 2 young children, and so road trips are kind of my jam right now. So I have been in the car more than I have ever been, and still wanting to get that travel fix, just not necessarily wanting to change time zones right now with the little ones. But anyway, we're going to move on to our next trend or prediction for 2026. Josiah, let's go over to you.
I'm going to go out on a limb on this one because I love data, but what do they say? If you're talking about data, then you're reporting on it versus predicting. So I'm going to go out with something that has no data to support it. It's a feeling, but it's coming from some conversations and my observations over the course of this year. I think there's going to be significant dislocation with regards to the workforce powered by AI. Some of it will be direct and some will be indirect. I think in corporate America, there is a perception that if we cut, we can juice profits, which in a lot of cases, we don't need to go down that path, but there is, this has unfolded. I think it will continue to unfold, whether it is real or imagined. There is a sense of, hey, we can lay a lot of people off and then powered by technology, we're going to do quite well. I think that is going to manifest as a lot more people working or wanting to work in the world of hospitality. If you look at it from a demographics perspective, the population that's probably most vulnerable is people early in their careers, people that, honestly are good candidates to work in hospitality. But even in San Francisco, which is one of, if not the epicenter of AI, I have had conversations with people that worked at technology companies and now are working at the fire department or working at a restaurant. And they're, whether they think their job is at risk, or they're just tired of it. There's an appetite to work in the world of hospitality. I think that is a great thing. I think hospitality can become sort of this safe harbor for people who are dislocated or just burnt out and want more human-to-human interaction. I think in an increasingly AI-driven world, we talked about this. I'm excited about AI. I think it can do really important and powerful things. But there's also a downside to consider, and second and third order implications of what a more AI-powered world could look like. I think hospitality will be a beneficiary in more demand from a guest perspective, but from an employee perspective as well. And so I think we're going to start to see some of this in 26. I think it's going to accelerate in the years ahead. I think that is a huge opportunity for hospitality, not only to staff to a level that enables hotels and other hospitality businesses to provide good service, but to think more expansively about what can a hospitality business offer. Maybe there's other services that hotels haven't traditionally thought about. Maybe they become hubs of opportunity in their neighborhoods, or they become opportunities for connecting people. And so I think it is the rise of AI is a strong tailwind behind hospitality, both from an efficiency and profitability perspective, but just from a employee and guest demand perspective as well.
Never thought about it this way, but we interviewed and have done some work with an AI phone attendant that picks up, answers the phone for the front desk in different areas. As we were talking, the way they position it was that front desk agent who doesn't have that AI call agent to pick up the phone is now trying to check people in. The phone's ringing, putting them on hold. The stress level's going up. Now there's 2 more people in line. That person's on hold. Somebody else calls the front desk. And now that person, their whole perception of what it's like to work in hospitality is like, this sucks. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be at the front desk. I don't want this person getting upset. I see the people poking their head in line. And so that technology is something that actually might help that person stay in hospitality, enjoy their job, and then kind of move on and up in their career in the hotel, versus people being afraid that technology took away the job of someone. So
it's also going to allow that front desk associate to have a conversation with the people checking in and hear why they're in town, or if it's their first time, and then maybe be able to do a surprise and delight that's really tailored to them because they had the 2 minutes to talk, rather than balancing the phones like you were just talking about.
yeah, exactly.
All right, Steve, let's move over to you.
So I said we're going to talk more about loyalty in 26. So Zach, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about this. You're the loyalty guy here. And Josiah, I'm going to kind of go off what you just said as hotels being hubs in the community. I think instead of seeing so many points given out, I think we're going to see a lot more experiences and possibly tangible goods as well. Hypothetically, if you're staying at a hotel and your guest is a big gym rat, you see him in the gym. There are guests that stayed with you multiple times. Oh, we have an open 60-minute massage today. Hey, go get a massage after your workout today. You know that your guest is a big foodie. Hey, why we have a seat open for the chef's tasting tonight. Why don't you come do that instead? Somebody is at your hotel, bleisure. That's been a big term we've talked about this year. We know they're there for work. Hey, why don't you go set up in our executive lounge today so you can work in peace and you don't have to be stuck in your hotel room. Also, things like we talked about on our podcast how much revenue and how Taylor Swift stimulated economies when she would go to a city. Oh, you're going to a Taylor Swift concert? Guess what? I know you were talking to our concierge about that. Here's a free behind the meet and greet or skip the line or something like that. I think we're just seeing, the focus on experiences so much more. And it's kind of funny. I was talking to somebody about loyalty, and I don't want to offend anybody here, but they were saying if you're only relying on points, that's more bribery than loyalty. Somebody's just going to come stay with you because of the points. And we're seeing that now happening already. Brands being booked directly are being booked more than any other type of hotel solely because of points. Now, I think if we add in some kind of more tangible experiences into that loyalty as well, we're going to see people, staying at the same hotel and increase loyalty through that. Zach, what do you think about that? I'm putting you on the spot right now on it, but want to hear your thoughts.
No, I always appreciate a good tee up, Steve. No, I think you're 100% right. I think, and if that someone was Bashar Wali, he's a good friend, and if that was him, he often that sounds like a Basharism, as I like to call him.
I believe it. I believe it was.
And I think you're spot on, right? And I think this goes back to what we were hashing out a little earlier: is what is loyalty, right? What do consumers actually care about? If I'm an Honors member, a Marriott member, a Hyatt member, right? Am I actually loyal to any one of those brands, right? And by the way, I actually am members to all of them. You guys probably are as well, right? To some varying status degrees. But I think you're asking the $1 million questions, Steve. And what I think about, based off of everything we were just chatting about with respect to AI, is for the first time ever, right? We've talked about guest personalization, right, for eons, for decades, right, and the idea of offering a really coveted, personalized experience. And the reality of the situation is that's very hard to do for your average operator outside of your VIPs. Like, it's hard enough to do it for your VIPs. We're now living in a world where with AI, you're able to make every guest your best guest. You're actually able to personalize at scale, right? So I can know that, David likes to golf, and, Glenn likes to run in the morning, and Katie wants a spa day away from the kids. I can know all those things, even if none of these folks have status with me, right? And I think that there's this unlock that's happened with this technology that actually, if applied correctly, enables the desire that I believe most hoteliers have, right? Which is to treat every guest like their best guest. So how that translates to loyalty, Steve, is I think loyalty is going to, be the carrot. I think points are going to be the carrot, but the actual experience, right, around why you stay, why you move up with the brand, why you stay consistent, whether it be that property or properties that share a similar ethos and soul with that property, will be because of the experience that you had. And that experience is never going to, it's never been easier to deliver that sort of experience and that sort of tailored offering than it is today. And it's only going to get better from here. I do think there is this broader question to wrestle with, which is why I think the Ryanair program failed. It's why I think Frontier's program of like unlimited flights for $299 a year, whatever it is likely to fail. Is I think it's really hard to build like a paid kind of like premium membership program when you have like one core SKU, right? Like I think Amazon works, right? Because like Prime works because of the breadth and depth of offerings. I get movies through Prime. I get free shipping through Prime. I get Whole Foods delivery through Prime, right? With Frontier, with Ryanair, with any of these programs, I mean, the product is an airplane seat, right? And oftentimes an airplane seat that I can't even book till 24 or 48 hours before check-in, right? And I think consumers are just wary of those sorts of offerings. And so I this is kind of a convoluted way of just saying that I think it's going to be hard to compel consumers to join new loyalty programs, to get people excited about new programs when the product isn't differentiated enough. So why I'm excited about the work that I'm doing now is if we can bring multiple product together, right, and build a really exciting program there that tells the consumer that you can earn points, experiences, rewards through a breadth and depth of product. I think that is the next frontier of loyalty. So anyways, that was way longer than anyone wanted it to be, but those are Zach unfiltered thoughts on the future of loyalty.
Yeah, and I just want to add on to that. I mean, I think, for me, what I've learned, especially with American Airlines, is really the points are fool's gold. They really are fool's gold. I mean, I was in Miami and I was coming home and I was like, let me see, I'll upgrade it. And like, you can upgrade for whatever. Or one way from Miami to Phoenix was 100,000 miles to upgrade.
Yeah.
And now what I love about American is I've been in Phoenix now for 9 years. They've been running an exclusive credit card offer for 9 years. And they're like, with 80,000 miles, two of you can travel, blah, blah. And it's like, no, you can't. No, where you go? Like, you can't do it. Like, I've tried, I've looked, like, they don't give you an easy way to figure out how you can use those 80,000 miles. So I just feel like it's
Phoenix to Vegas. That's about,
there you go.
Or upgrade to Economy Plus.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so that's my 2 cents.
I'm going to say this, and I said this last year. What I really want and what would create loyalty is somebody to figure out technology and just say, here's how we use AI to help increase the guest experience here. I want to, when my flight lands at 11 a.m., utilize AI so the check-in correlates with my plane. That is what I want. And any hotel that does that, I'm saying it right here, I will be so loyal to you because I usually take the first flight out of Denver to get into a city, and it's often that my room's not ready. I would love to see it. And I know people have tried to do it before. I don't think anybody's really succeeded. Maybe I'm wrong on this one, but as soon as people coordinate the flights to check-in times, I'm all in on that.
Stay tuned, Steve.
Uh-oh. Well, there we go. That's what I like to hear, Zach.
All right, let's move over to David.
All right. So speaking of loyalty and flights, my flight was delayed from Dallas. Big surprise. So I got in really late. So stay with me because this idea came to me late last night. So, when you go to a buffet and there's so much there and you're just like, and then you're just like, oh, I just really wish I would have had like a nice meal. I would have chose exactly what I want. It would have kind of been tailored, and because all this stuff's not cutting it for me. I think there's going to be a pushback on the AI buffet. And what I mean by that is that images, videos, LinkedIn posts, articles, like it's so obvious that it's AI right now that it's got no emotion, obviously it's got a human element, but you just see it. You see it on the post with the icons, or you see the dashes, or you see the image. I'm guilty. I have a headshot that's AI. It's old, but I think there's just going to, like Glenn said, doing it right, like using AI and doing it in the right way. And even some of the things we're noticing is we've started doing through our media side of our podcast, we've been doing testimonials with the actual GM or director of sales or somebody at the property. And it just resonates so much more than those corporate videos with the actor or actress walking through the lobby with their suitcase. And so for me, I think, look, I'm not naive. AI is not going anywhere. It's going to continue to grow. But I think there's going to be this little bit of pushback where people are going to want that real experience, that real photo, that real article that somebody wrote, something without all the goddamn icons and emojis all over the thing. Like, I think people are just going to want that. They're going to want, especially in hospitality, they're going to want to hear from people. They're not going to want infographics. They're not going to want these, 4-page blogs. They're going to want video and some video content and things of that nature. And just a little less of the AI stuff in certain places. Like I said, it's not going away, but I think we, especially in hospitality, we need to also address that people want the real stuff, not just the AI stuff. So that's my rant for the day.
I love it, David. And I feel like I know we're all podcasters and this is what we do all day. So our listeners might think, hey, we're just patting ourselves on the back. I'm also writing checks to grow a business. And so I think I also see it from that perspective as well. The attention that each of us has, the relationships, the insight we can provide. I think that's why each of us shows up every day and does the work that we're doing, right? Because we fundamentally believe this is how people learn. This is what connects with people. We're not creating quote unquote content, right? We're helping people learn through conversation, with trusted expert perspectives of people who have done it and that we can believe in. And that's why I'm very bullish, not only as a podcaster, but as a media buyer, as somebody growing a business. I know this works. And I think this becomes increasingly important. And I think for all our listeners, maybe that aren't podcasters, I think listening to, the incredible shows that each of us are producing, this is a way to level up your career, level up your business, right? I mean, there's just going to be more and more. I think you're right, David. This stuff's going to accelerate. So make sure that you're tuning in, listening to voices that you can trust, who have a track record of actually delivering results.
I think people just want more authenticity. We want to know the real person. We don't want to know the guy behind AI, or when somebody posts and it's blatantly AI, it's like, I don't care what ChatGPT says. I want to know your perspective, and I want to see it in your thoughts, not running it through ChatGPT. Clean this up, shorten, make it more politically correct. Like, I want to hear your thoughts. David, that's why I appreciate your rants. Authentic, and it's really you, not a AI character.
It goes back to what we were talking about with trade shows too. Like, if you think about people on the stage, on a panel, you can tell who's just there parroting the briefing document, which again, love to the briefing document, and who's there as the authentic self, who's there thinking about their 20, 30 years of experience and pulling in that real-time information and giving a perspective that no computer could jump out at you right now. We really just want that human element.
Yeah, you're right. And I think I won't call it anybody, but we've all seen it. Like, if you're on a panel and I apologize if any of you had to do this, I don't think you have, but if you have to have notes when you're up on the panel, then you should not be on that panel. If you just can't talk and you just can't address the topics, then, and it's not offensive. Some people aren't comfortable, and I get it. Some people get nervous, but it's kind of, to Glenn's point, like, either should be there, shouldn't be there. Like, you shouldn't be doing something you're not comfortable with, or you shouldn't just be there. And I think what Glenn was getting at, like, if you are going to sponsor a panel, get the person who knows how to run the panel to get the most out of it, versus just taking somebody from the company who's never done it and you can just feel it's awkward. So again, I just think that it's that, it's that same thing. It's like it's like going to New York City and eating at the Olive Garden. Like, why the hell would you do that? Like, it just doesn't make any
David,
sense.
that's one of my favorite things to make fun of is the line out in front of the Olive Garden in Times Square.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I'm like, why would you do that? You're in New York City. You're going to Olive Garden. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway.
Well, according to Michael Scott, Sbarro's in Times Square does have the best pizza in the nation. So,
All right, Zach, let's move over to you. What are you predicting for 2026?
As painful as the Sonder Marriott fallout was, and as much of the internet as it consumed, at least in the hospitality space, as it did, my big prediction is we haven't learned our lesson here, right? If you look back, right, this idea of this lease arbitrage model, these master leases, trying to brand a short-term rental asset, flirting between the lines of short-term rentals and hotels, right? It's been done several times. The Guild didn't pan out as expected, right? You had Lyric, you had Sutton, now this latest episode with Sonder. And I think that there's something that and you even go back further to WeWork. Obviously, it's different, but like the WeWork model. And yet, Andreessen Horowitz just dumped an additional hundreds of millions of dollars into Adam Newman's latest project, Flow, right? So there is something that we're all obsessed with this idea of like branded short-term, mid-term rentals. And so I don't think that this model of the master lease model is going away anytime soon. I still think we'll see brands like the Marriotts and Hiltons of the world try to strike strategic partnerships with folks building in the space. I think what the folks at Mint House are doing is kind of interesting. Their model is slightly different, but I've been a fan as a guest. So I don't think this model is going away. I do think that there's something fundamentally flawed with the model that we need to kind of figure out. But my big prediction is we'll see the rise and fall of another Sonder. We won't see the rise and fall in 2026, but we will very soon forget this, and we'll see another rise and fall of another company attempting to do what Sonder did. So that's my prediction.
I was just listening, Zach, to your excellent new podcast, This Week in Hospitality, and I think Ben Wolf made the comment where a lot of this gets into the details, how the deals are structured. And I think for me, one of the other takeaways of this whole experience is the kind of breadth of experience that's needed to execute a hospitality concept well. There's a lot of financial, kind of business strategy, real estate expertise that's required to pull this off. The kind of the guest-facing elements are a component of it, but there's a lot of stuff underneath the surface that sometimes isn't thought about in the level of detail it needs to be. But it creates opportunity, I think, for people maybe from other industries with that level of expertise to come into hospitality, partner up with somebody who has great creative brand vision, and bring this to life. I think there's a big opportunity there.
yeah, I just think it's such a different model than a traditional hotel. Like you said, Zach, I worked with Mint House in the past, and I got to stay as a guest recently. And I'm not going to lie, that was one of my most enjoyable stays I have had at a hotel. We were in Denver for a week, and I'm sorry, I'm not a guy who wants to eat out every night. They had our fridges, and they had snacks set out for us. Like, we were stocked and ready to go for a few days. I loved that model, the space there, the rooms were great. So I'm curious. I think we need somebody to figure it out. I think Mint House is on that track, but like you said, working with a brand on that, two completely different business models.
I was just going to add real quick, and if you kind of read a lot of the reasons why it didn't work is because they didn't have the foresight to plan out the integrations that were needed to make sure that they were able to tap into the benefits of being part of the brand. And to me, as a former operator but a tech guy for 25 years, it just blows my mind. Like, how did you not have that figured out before you did it? Like, you're trying to it's like, the whole working on the plane or the car while it's driving. It's like, how could you have not figured that out and had a great plan? So anyway, that was my 2 cents.
Yeah, I personally own 3 short-term rentals. So actually on paper, I feel like this should work. And Zach, I'm probably proving your point that I haven't learned the lesson still either. It's like you're in markets that are highly regulated around short-term rentals. So big win right there. Everything Steve just said about people wanting certain elements that you do get in short-term rentals, like a kitchen, for example. But we all know with Airbnb, Vrbo, it's really hyper-dependent on who your host is. And do they have any knowledge whatsoever of what hospitality is? So the experience varies drastically. So in a way, to have somebody operating these branded rentals seems like it should be a slam dunk. And yet, as you've pointed out, Zach, it hasn't worked in the past.
Yeah, 100%. And to be clear too, I'm super optimistic. I want it to work. I'm right there with Steve. I love that kind of a product, especially when you are staying for a longer period of time. It also helps. I've got 2 young kids myself, Katie, and it helps to make staying in a quote unquote hotel more doable with a family. And there aren't always great short term rentals like in New York City, right? To choose from. So that this sort of model I think is really attractive. The Mint House, by the way, on 70 Pine, for those of you who are in New York and haven't been, should check that out, because I think that is the model. They've got an incredible Michelin star restaurant on in the lobby floor. Obviously, there's no direct relationship there, but as a guest, it feels like it's just the restaurant in the lobby. They've got an incredible rooftop bar. So, anyways, that model that's a microcosm of how Zach at least would want this master lease model to work.
Well, Zach, I'm going to stick with short-term rentals for my final prediction of our roundtable today for 2026. I am also thinking about branded short-term rentals, but in a slightly different way. So if you are familiar with the fine art photographer Gray Mallon, he's known for these gorgeous aerial beach photography. He also is, in my opinion, the king of brand extensions. He partners with brands like Arlo Bar Brown, Janie and Jack, Ruggable. He even has an Uno collection, like the actual game Uno. And about a year ago, he launched something called Gray Mallon Getaway House. And it is a short-term rental, but it brings all of his brand extensions, his photography, everything to life. It is absolutely stunning. It's in Montecito, California. When you walk in, you feel like you are in Gray Mallon's world. So I'm really interested to see more of that. I think we've seen that in the hotel space for a long time. We've seen branded hotel suites like the Eloise Suite at the Plaza or the Bentley Suite at the St. Regis, New York. But we haven't really started to see a lot of brands or even creators, influencers owning that piece of real estate, or however it's done in the background, to really immerse people into that world. I think it becomes that kind of four-walled influencer, something that a brand like Minoan talks a lot about, which has started to make short-term rentals actually shoppable, because what better way to experience a couch or a coffee maker or a television is to have the weekend at it with your friends. So that's something I'm interested to see more of in the space.
Katie, I think it's super insightful, and it blows my mind how little this happens relative to how much it should happen. I think, if we zoom out, attention is the most finite resource in the world, and the economy goes up and down. Honestly, there's a lot of capital out there. There's a lot of talent out there. We don't have unlimited attention, though. And so for anyone trying to grow anything, anyone trying to share an idea, attention is that most valuable resource. And hospitality has an incredible opportunity to provide that immersive environment to be exposed to a new brand, a new idea, a new product. And I expect this to be a tailwind that only accelerates next year in the years ahead. I think it's a great observation.
Yeah, and I would love to see more of, at least on the short-term rental side. We were talking before we got on there, more that surprise and delight than surprise and disappoint. And what I mean by that is, like, when Steve and I, we went to the Mint House, it was like we weren't expecting, it was probably $10 worth of stuff, but it was like awesome. It's like, oh, we got bottled water, we got some snacks, we got a couple bananas. It was like, wow, this is great, versus the surprise of, oh, there's not enough toilet paper, or there's not a choice in pillows. We were the one I was at, and everyone got pissed off at me on LinkedIn, but there was no choice in pillows. Like, the pillows were like that thick, and it was just not comfortable. And so I just think part of that, I think some of the guidelines and just trying to help, maybe people will get into it, like you, Katie, where people get some sort of not certification, but they get a little bit trained on how to learn some of that hospitality and things that they could be doing, and just make it clear to the guests. Because you would think I didn't like it. I loved it. I just didn't like the fact that I felt like I was running around trying to clean up with little kids and all these people, and trying to pack the car and all this stuff. And people are like, it doesn't take you an hour to clean. And I'm like, no, but I'm packing. I'm trying to get the hell out. So anyway, but I hear you.
Well, it's nice you guys got the water, because I have to stay 50 nights at a particular hotel brand before they'll give me a couple of those. Good thing I don't have to drink much.
Well, the funniest thing, we stayed at a hotel, and John, our producer, he felt bad because it was and I won't say the hotel, but they basically had free water that was over by the bar, but they had the water that you paid for right on the nightstand. And so I guess he didn't realize that.
Yes,
It's
I
like,
had that same experience.
Thirsty.
Oh.
And he drank like a $7 bottle of water when there was 2 free bottles. Like, right, he would have had just get up. But it's like, it's just little things like that where you're like, and this is a hotel. So again, I'll call it out when it's a hotel, but it's like, put the free water next to the bed and if they want the upgraded Evian or whatever the hell it was, put it over somewhere where they know they're paying for it. So.
All right, guys. Well, this was an absolute blast. Thank you all for taking the time, and wishing everyone listening and watching a very happy, healthy, and dare I say it, hospitable holiday season.
Happy holidays, everybody. Thanks
Wonderful.
for doing this today.
Now that's thank you, Katie, for doing this.
All right, everyone. It's time for today's sweet summary, where I break down the key insights and actionable takeaways from today's conversation. Today's holiday hospitality roundtable was a reminder of why I love this industry so much. Because even as the industry and really the world evolves, the shared commitment to elevating the guest experience never wavers. One theme echoed across every voice at the table: loyalty is overdue for reinvention. For years, loyalty has been reduced to transactional perks. A free bottle of water here, late checkout there. But as hospitality continues shifting towards experiences, loyalty has to evolve with it. The future isn't points and perks, it's meaning, memory, and connection. We also dove into the massive investments happening behind the scenes, large-scale renovations, the evolution of luxury, and how guests' expectations are rising faster than ever. Luxury today isn't marble, it's mastery. Anticipating needs, delivering ease, and intentionally designing moments guests can't stop talking about. Another hot topic: trade show fatigue. People are tired of the same panels, the same conversations, and the same head nod agreements. As an industry, and possibly as a human race, we're craving originality, friction, and new perspectives, the kind that can actually move us forward. And of course, we had to talk about AI. Every one of us agreed it will shape the future of hospitality, but also that no one has truly figured it out yet, despite what the loudest ChatGPT-generated LinkedIn post may claim. We are still in our infancy with this technology. AI will streamline operations, empower smarter decisions, and unlock new efficiencies, of course. But since it will never replace the warmth, intuition, and empathy that define hospitality, we discussed how our industry is uniquely suited to become a haven for those employees displaced by AI. We also examined the economic realities operators are facing and will continue to face. Profitability isn't optional. It's the lifeline that will determine who weathers the uncertain economic climate ahead. Efficiency, stewardship, and discipline will matter more than ever in 2026. Finally, we had a fascinating discussion around branded short-term rentals, from the rise and fall of companies like Sonder to the enthusiasm around Minthouse, as well as the predicted trend of creators and influencers designing immersive rental spaces of their own. In a world where attention is the most finite resource, having someone choose to spend their time and money in your space, sleeping in your bed, using your products, living inside the environment you designed, is invaluable. A stay offers a level of immersion no ad campaign, headline, or Instagram post could ever replicate. It's one of the greatest opportunities we have to showcase a brand and earn true loyalty. This roundtable made one thing clear. The hospitality landscape is shifting quickly, but its heart remains the same. We're here to create places people want to return to, places where people feel looked after and cared for, not nickel and dimed for cleaning fees or bottles of water. And especially during the holidays, it's a powerful reminder that the greatest luxury we can offer isn't a perk, it's making people feel at home wherever they are. And that concludes another episode of Sweet Success. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe, rate, and review the show. We all know how important those 5-star reviews are. I also want to say a massive thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in. It means the absolute world to me. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have ideas for future guests, new topics to cover, or even just want to say hi, don't be shy. Message me through our website, sweetsuccesspodcast.com, or on social media at Sweet Success Podcast. That's sweet like hotel suite. Once again, I'm your host, Katie Klein, and I'm super excited to see you all next week.